So my name is Fritz Amegashie. Fritz is my first name. I'm a journalist and a communication consultant in Ghana. And I'm really passionate about human rights issues and shedding a light and lending an ear to events in society, bringing them from the periphery of journalism and bringing it to the rest of the world. And that's what I love doing. So pretty much that's me, journalist in Ghana, and that's what I do.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, you guys are in for a treat, especially for all you young journalists who say, wow, how am I going to make this happen and make ends meet? I did not mean to rhyme, but I do it all the time. This guest, Fritz, was brought to us by Unduru, who is a well-trained and certified journalist. She'll let you know that. She's also been a contributor at the African Diaspora News Channel, which those of you who follow know that that is just my favorite client to work with, of course, besides my wife, right? But Fritz is going to give us the game on how he started, sustained, and became this journalist that has also joined our team from Ghana. We're going to get into it. Fritz, welcome to Diversified Game. How are you doing?
Grateful. And how are you doing as well?
Blessed by the best over here, but it's all about you. So let the people know, how did you find a way to live your childhood dream and telling stories and make a living? Because I know it wasn't easy.
Thank you very much indeed, Kenny. And yeah, I mean, I've been asked that question so many times. And even before I delve into that, let me just say thank you very much for your support, your guidance, and your grace and your patience and everything ever since I joined the Diaspora News channel. It's been a learning curve for me, and you've been very instrumental and very pivotal. And I'm really grateful for that. And thank you very much for that. Now, to the substantive question. Okay, so I've always wanted to be a journalist since the age 7. I love talking, and for a lot of people, when you ask them why they want to be journalists, or if anybody will say that you want to be a journalist, they say, "Oh, this guy really talks so much. He's a talkative. He's a chatterbox. He would be a very good journalist. He will make a very good journalist." So mine started that way. Um, since age 7, I've always followed the news. I know what is currently happening in the country. I was following up with the latest news and everything. And my father, my late father of blessed memory, he also aided in the dream as well. He always advised me to pay attention to the news, watch the news, follow the trends, follow the beat, know exactly what is happening. And right after work, he comes to sit down and call me and say, okay, so you have watched the news. Come and give me the review of what you've just watched. What's the latest news about, and all of that. So I had my father taking me through that routine daily of what entails the news, what is currently happening. So that also beefed up my interest and my passion for journalism. And I went into senior high school, and thankfully, there was an opportunity for a student who wants to be journalist to be part of a media group that covers news on campus, goes around, fish out the stories, weave the stories, and come and present it to a group of students at assembly. I thought it was an awesome, beautiful opportunity. I seized the opportunity, got on board, started gathering news on campus, and I was given the opportunity to present news to about 5,000 students every Wednesday at assembly from senior high school. So from senior high school, I knew that this is what I want to do if I become an adult. So I applied to journalism school. It was a professional institute known as the Ghana Institute of Journalism here in Ghana. It's one of our premier communication universities, has a track record of training world-class journalists. So I knew that I'll be able to go into Ghana Institute of Journalism. So right after senior high school, I applied to GIJ, and I got in. I mean, after a lot of, you know, opposition, I finally got into GIJ. It was a dream come true. And when I got into GIJ, it just opened up to me. You cannot believe it. I had several opportunities on campus to be on radio, to be on television, and to be in the newspaper. So I was working in the radio station of the school. I was working in the TV station of the school as well, and I was also contributing to the magazine of the school as well. So in university like GIJ, that was when I had the most opportunities to be able to hone my skills and become a better version of who I really want to become. Yes, I appreciate the journey, the trajectory of from senior high school to now university. And university is where I really honed my skills of communicating very well, knowing who you're communicating to express your message. My journalism lecturers will always tell you that when you are communicating an information to people, you are supposed to express and not impress. So I got all the rudiments of journalism from the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and I had great mentors and great people who guide me along the way. Now, right from GIJ, and there was a time I was supposed to do an internship, and I've always loved the biggest media organizations in the country. And here in Ghana, it is known as the Multimedia Group. I don't know if you know Joy FM. Joy FM is one of the foremost private media houses in Ghana, and they have a track record of comprehensive, credible news, dispensation. So I wanted to be part of that history. I wanted to be part of that body. I remember I didn't know how I was going. I knew the news manager at the time. We had met at a program, and I walked up to him and said, "Look, hi, my name is Fritz. I'm a student of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. I'm really passionate about this work. I really want to have a shot at multimedia." And he said, "Well, if you're ready, just come along with a letter out there. Hopefully, you can get in." When it was time for an internship, I took the letter from the institute, which was the university, and I took it to Joy FM. When I got into Joy FM, I saw the news manager. He took the letter and he got me in the door. So that's how it started. So in the mainstream media, Joy FM was a fair I cut my journalism teeth. It was a place of learning. It was so intense. The newsroom was so intimidating, and you can't make excuses, you can't leave any stone unturned. You need to pay attention to detail. You must be thirsty for the news. You need to be very passionate, because journalism itself is a calling. If you are not passionate, you don't have that interest, that consuming interest, you go in and you fall through the cracks. So that's how it all started. Then finally I got a question, also biggest in the country, GH1 TV. um, I met the news editor. She saw me at first hand. She laughed me and said, "Well, I think I have a great opportunity for you. I want you to be a news anchor. I'm going to commit all the time to training you to become a TV presenter." And at the time, I had then finished with my internship at Joy, and I'd moved to GIJ to still continue with my the rest of the program for me to get a degree. And here I was faced with another big opportunity to be a journalist, and not just being a journalist, but a news anchor. And I was asking myself, how would I be able to do this? How would I be able to survive in an industry where I have senior colleagues who are very intimidating? Because anytime you walk into a newsroom, somebody feels like you're coming for their job. And so if you're a young person on your feet and you have senior people who are believing in you and they want to give you an opportunity, you have all the nerves, playing all those games with you and all of that. So I was asking myself, I had a hard time nagging questions in my in a high level powered newsroom of senior colleagues, and the stakes were really high. It was very competitive. But I told the news editor that I was willing to accept a challenge, and that is my strength, and that's my resilient ideals I've carried through. Be able to accept challenge, take the bull by the horn, and do exactly what I. So I accepted the opportunity at GH1 TV. I went through mock round, and I became a news anchor and also a reporter. So I stories. following, covering news conferences and ECOWAS meetings and all of that. So pretty much that has been the journey from childhood, my parents aiding it up onto GH1 TV, where I finally lived my dream in full force. Yeah,
Well, that is one heck of a story. And
I'm
you know, my
done.
next question, yes, one heck of a story. And
Yeah.
if you guys hear any delay or any issues, understand 15 years ago we could not have even done this even on a Skype, but we are on, you know, in the new year doing this. And I want to ask, and you know the question I'm going to ask, were you born with that voice? Did you train as a young person to have that voice? Because I'm going to retell the story. The audience didn't hear it. You know, when I first heard you, I said, is this his real voice? Because some people have a TV and a radio voice and they've trained at it. But when you get off the camera, they snap out of character. So I want to know, is that voice something that you naturally had, or did you practice it? Were you trained on that? Please let us know.
I think that question, I get that question a lot. I find it really interesting and very funny because and people who know me from childhood know that I really love speaking English. I was very passionate about English language. And I remember even if in school, if exams were coming up and we're going to write math, for instance, I was always reading my newspaper. I think pretty much because I also love following the news, love listening to journalists and the way they present the news. For a very long time, I have leaned into that. So it also contributed to shaping the way I reflect on issues and how I'm able to contribute to my thought. But for the voice, this is the way I've always sounded. This is me. I just love to write, we learn to enunciate. We're told, we're told in journalism school that we're supposed to fully pronounce words, not swallowing the ending of words. So these are things, of course, in the world newsroom, like in the when it comes to the newsroom, the one of the reasons why they're going to put you on air, or one of the reasons why it assign you to cover a story, you need to sound convincing, you need to be bold, you need to be able to speak well, you need to be articulate, you need to be eloquent. So yeah, I've always been this, but the also contributed to shaping me into a better version of myself.
Okay, okay. And you know, I'm watching you, and I'm gonna say this. This is gonna be the challenge. I think when you put your hands down, I think something, the microphone, it's like wind or something, it's magic. So we'll try to keep our hands up or whatnot, because that's where I'm sometimes I think hearing that. And I want the audience to be, you know, I don't want them to come at me later and say, why didn't you tell him stop hitting the mic? He's not hitting the mic, but we are talking tens and thousand miles
Okay,
away,
okay.
people. So we'll try that. But with that being your natural voice, I'm sure it's not the first time. People probably say, speak tree, speak, you know, when you speak pigeon, is it the same voice that you have if you choose to, you know, switch your language?
Okay, this is very funny. It's the same voice I have. Other than that, then I'll have a double personality. The way I sound with you is the same way I sound off camera. When you turn the camera on, I should sound the same way. And if I'm off camera, I should also. And as journalists, we are supposed to be real. News is real. It's not. We are not acting. We are not actors, so we are not supposed to gym up our voice. That's been my news editor at the time who said you are being fake. You have a double personality, so you just have to sound the way you sound. I sound when I'm speaking pidgin. That's the way I sound. So there's really no two ways about that. You should sound the same way you sound on air. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about the challenges of being a journalist in Ghana, where here in America, the first thing you hear is freedom of speech and you have gun rights. But you've done stories on 14-year-olds who have married 48-year-olds. And I could only imagine that somebody wasn't happy that you did that story. And when you're in the store, if you're trying to enjoy with your family, you never know who will, pop up. How have you worked on being able to be truthful in telling stories as well as not making too many enemies?
Yes, I mean, you not say you can't make enemies. You can't say you can't be too careful, or you're not step to have a brush with the law. There are going to be some excesses, but we advise that you are able to limit those excesses and be able to manage kids. Imperative. It's really important. One of the ways I have really been able to manage some of the excesses to make sure that I need to be very ethical. I need to be very professional. So I go about my rationalism behind my thought, behind the back of my mind that, look, this is a service I'm doing. I have to do this service to the country. Then I have to apply all the ethics of journalism to the core, because even as I have my own values, I have my own, mantra that I live by. And on one of the things that really, lead my way. And I try to incorporate that and inculcate that into yeah, it might be a very difficult story to tell, but at the end of the day, I'm asking myself, is it for a greater good, regardless of who's who is involved, regardless of anybody? I'm going to tell the story. If I have to be truthful, if I'm going to be, serve the national interest, I have to be truthful and not. So credibility cannot be negotiated when it comes to me, and that is what I've been able to do. When you mentioned the 48-year-old getting married to a 13-year-old, if I should tell you how I came by that story, you really be surprised. When I was ready to roll out with the story, and the 48-year-old man had knew that the story was going on air, for certain people to come and tell me to, kill the story, because right after that story was done, the man was arrested. So he told me not to do the story, but I said, look, this story is for a greater good. This girl needs to go back to school. She has all her life ahead of her. You cannot pin her down because of marriage. And so I had to be truthful. He told me to kill the story, but I didn't kill the story. At the end of the day, we aired the story, and the story got the results it needed to get. So yeah, I work. I cannot negotiate truthfulness for any other thing. Yeah.
What do you do? And this is a learning lesson for young journalists who, because I believe the legal age, something I just looked up, in Ghana is 18. What do you do when someone does say kill the story? Because they can easily say kill the story or it may come on to you. What do you do to protect yourself? Because a lot of people don't know, how to protect themselves and just, being safe is the number one thing when you're doing any job.
Right. I think should be everyone's duty before the security services or those mandated to take as a human being, as yourself. You need to be fully responsible for your own security, and you have to be conscious of your environment. You need to know exactly what is happening. And as journalists, because of we're very, very, very conscious of our environments. When we receive any calls that we know that we have to report to a news editor. The news editor then takes it up and deal. Yes, even before the security services would come in, you have a responsibility, you have a duty to first and foremost be conscious and alert of your environment. If you see anything untoward, Don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to report to them. If somebody give you a threat, don't just sit on it because you feel like, oh, I'm a journalist. Somebody has given me a threat to me because here in the country, we there was a sad story one time where it was threatened on live TV by a very high profile person in Ghana. Few months down the line, the journalist was murdered, you know, in cold blood. It was a really sad story, and country to be on the red alert. It also got media houses to also do their best to provide security for investigative journalists who were, covering very sensitive and delicate stories. And for me, that towards me might not be enough because I'm not really into the fake of invest rights, and so the threats are a bit high. Maybe the only thing you might feel people on social media troll you for something, but that's where it ends. But for a lot of the individuals, for a lot of the journalists who think investigative journalism, and I know that some media houses provide security for them, and they go and ensure that they feel secure and be able to go about their duty without duty. Yeah.
Okay. Talk about, because you talked about your journey, and it's almost like it's a fast pace. This is what you were meant to do. But many journalists globally deal with, I'm having to move, I'm having to travel, I'm having to find other companies to work for.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.
So, in a world where it's hard enough as a student of journalism and communication to find your first job, but it's also even harder to keep a job sometimes, especially when you're in front of the camera, where you have people who, used to be behind the scenes, have worked hard enough, they become directors, producers, and they get in front of the camera. How have you found a way to stay in front of the camera? And, what is any advice that you would give to a young journalist trying to get to where you're at?
Wow, that's a very fantastic question. And I know that for a lot of people who are in journalism school, their dream or the end goal is to end in front of the camera. Interestingly enough, when I was training to become a journalist, so while I was going through journalism school, that had never been my dream of being in front of the camera. I knew that I wanted to be a journalist, covering stories, telling actualities, following up on events in the country. But the idea of being in front of the camera and telling those stories and anchoring the news was never a childhood dream. Like it never really, occurred to me. I was never enthused about it. I was not crazy. I never went nuts about it. But it was just an opportunity that my former news editor at the time at GH1 TV, Nana Banamwa, I always give her thanks because she gave me one of my biggest break on television. When she saw me after our first meeting, she said she really loved the way I sounded. She's seen something in me. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she feels like I'll make a great news anchor because of the way I sounded. So yeah, it was an opportunity for me. But before they give you the opportunity, you also have to prove some level of preparedness. You need to be ready because you can't just say that, well, you want to be a news anchor, you want to be on TV and read the news and not be able to prepare for it. So all the time that I was paying attention to the news, I was listening in to the BBC, watching CNN as a child growing up, and following up on the local news in my community. I didn't know that I was training myself and looking at all those things. Unknowingly, indirectly, I was training myself for my on-air job. So before you wait for your biggest break, you need to prepare. And for me, even though I was preparing, I didn't know that I was preparing for my online assignment. It was just a preparation for me because I felt really passionate. I felt really excited about journalism. But all in the spirit of that, I was preparing myself and I didn't know much about it. And so when I was given the opportunity, I went on air and I did it. Even though my beginning wasn't great, I was able to, stay on and learn the rudiments of the work. And so before you be able to stay on air for a very long time, you need to be always learning. You need to be learning about things because you need to be unique. If you are not unique, every now and then there are people coming into the newsroom and also wanting to become news anchors. If those people present something, if they present a very unique front that flaws you, then your news manager may be forced to take you off air. So yes, you might be a director today or holding the microphone and not being on television, but it's just a reminder for you that if you really want to be an on-air personality, then you have to put in a full shift to do all the work. I remember when I was training to become a news anchor on air, there were times I would take some of the scripts that the major news anchors have read. I take them home. I spend time with the scripts, read the scripts. So you always have to practice. I know it's a cliche that people say that, look, practice makes perfect. That is very true in every sense of the word. You must be willing to prepare yourself, practice more. Practice more. When you practice more, on the big day when you have your chance, it becomes a walk in the park for you. It becomes easy peasy for you. And so you need to prepare yourself. And that's what a lot of student journalists forget to do. They are always excited about it. And sometimes it's very easy to see news anchors on air and feel like, oh, it's very easy to read the news. But these anchors have been trained, they've been skilled. And the more they do it, the more they become excellent and they become expert in what they do. So it's not just enough seeing the news anchors on air and saying that you can read. It's just normal reading. No, it's not a normal reading until you go and be on air and they put a script in front of you and you realize that it actually requires skills. And before you be able to build those skills, you need to prepare more. You need to prepare more. Take the script home, watch news anchors, listening to podcasts like this, for instance, podcasts that uplift you, that encourage you, that help you into molding you into a better version of yourself. So it's going to be a lot of preparation, a lot of learning, a lot of asking questions, a lot of making mistakes. But making the mistakes, don't be shy of making the mistakes because when you make the mistakes, it gives you an opportunity to learn.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for the compliment. And when you talk about that practice, I think about Allen Iverson's famous lines, but practice, we all need to practice at all levels. Can you talk about when you're done with the practice and you're getting some form of success, what is a community give back that you are doing or that you would like to do in the future?
Yeah, I really have one of those. There are several stories that have been left on the periphery of journalism. And I know the field of journalism is evolving, new things are happening, AI is coming up and all the new things. But there are stories of sexual minorities that are not being given, the spotlight. They are not given attention. They are not given the traction they deserve. For instance, in Africa, I know LGBT issues are very sensitive issues in most of the African countries. 30 African countries in all have outlawed LGBT or homosexuality sex. And I'm not by this trying to advocate for the community or trying to say that, let's legalize their action. Far from that. I'm very passionate about having journalists in African countries who are very well, vested on the knowledge of sexual minorities, especially centering them in nuanced and balanced editorial work. At the moment, that is what is lacking in Africa. And so, for me, one of the things I feel really passionate about is not just LGBT, other human rights issues. There are children who are still being married off at their 8th birthdays, and we are not having journalists cover all those things. So, for me, I have a dream or an ambition of, having a training for student journalists to help them find their niche right from journalism school, because it's really a struggle and really painful to always get into the newsroom before you find a niche. But if you find a niche right from journalism school and you start training yourself, before you get into the newsroom, you'll be a guru and an expert in a field. Because in Africa, what we tend to do is we tend to be a master of all trades, a jack of all trades and master of none. So I'm looking forward to having an organization or an NGO, that's my giving back, trying to form a small group that goes to train journalists in schools, especially in communication and journalism schools, help them, train them in the various niches, especially in the coverage of human rights issues, so that those journalists have knowledge and they are able to tell compelling and nuanced and centering people, especially who have been left on the periphery of journalism. That is my way of giving back and, my greatest might to society.
Glad you brought that up, because homosexuality is nothing new. It's even in the scriptures. It's even in some of the major holidays that have just passed. And in America, it's everything. This is Babylon, Sodom and Gomorrah in every single way. But in Africa, it seems like your stance has to be, and maybe it's a black thing, because black males too, it almost has to be, you have to be against this if you're not part of the community. I'm not part of the community, but I know people who are, so am I not part of it, right? And you're working with people who are, and some people are getting their hair cut and even doing jiu-jitsu. Yes, some of y'all are even doing jiu-jitsu with somebody, and you think that he was just had a strong grip, huh? But I'm being funny because that's what I do. But we want to give game and entertain is the name of this game. But can you talk about, being a black male in Africa, being an African, what, do you feel? Because you also said that when they give you a script, so that means sometimes, if you guys caught that, you're not always writing your own stuff. Someone else is, and they might write something you're totally against. So no matter which way, Fritz, I won't ask you which way you're going on, with that, but give us some game on how you deal with that and what you feel, as a black male. Do you have to take a certain standpoint because this is what the masses are saying?
Yeah. So I would always give my standpoint as a journalist, because that's what I do. I serve society. I tell stories that brings about social change. And that social change is embedded in my ethics of journalism, being professional and being ethical. And yes, we may all have our own beliefs, we may have our persuasions, we may have our own thoughts. But when it comes to telling a story, you need to swallow your biases and be able to approach the story with clinical objectivity. And that's what is currently lacking. A lot of journalists who feel like, this LGBT community does not have a chance to live. And so when they are telling the story, they tell the story in a way that reflects their biases, which influence public opinion and put a target on the back of these individuals who are already reeling under the impact of hate and so much pumped up bigotry in the country. So as journalists, yes, you may have a stand, you might be against the community, but can you do your work in such a way that it doesn't affect how you represent them in your work? how you're able to cover them. And that has always been my biggest worry. Yes, I may not like gay people, but when I'm telling the story, I need to tell a very balanced story that if anybody hears me, they'll be like, oh, this journalist is not actually gay, but he's been able to he's been able to represent the plight of these individuals in a balanced form. Right. So I really would want journalists to like get training, especially on how they cover this community, because like you rightly indicated, this community is not new to Africa. These people have been here since the inception of the Bible. It is not any import of any Western ideas or any Western ideologies. These individuals have been here since time immemorial, and it's about time journalists learn about them and be able to tell the story, because you are there to represent the people. You are there to tell stories. And so you can't pick and choose and do the stories you want to do. And even if you're going to tell stories of those people, you allow your biases to cloud it, and it makes it really painful and, just makes your life very difficult. Yes. So we have our differences, but let's let objectivity, be the decider at the end of the day.
And say, hey, he said he hated. He was giving an example, but there is such sensitivity around that subject.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know. I just don't have time to hate. I hate sin, and I hate most. The sin that I really hate. I hate the one that I keep doing over and over again and want to stop. That's the one that I really hate.
I like that.
Yeah, because we focus so much on other people's with a whole plank in our eye and trying to get the speck out of somebody else's. But that's a great give back. What do you think the audience can do? That knows you, that's following you, because journalists, even though you guys try not to be celebrities, now everybody's a celebrity. You have plumbers who are celebrities because they now get TV shows, and it's an awesome thing. But what is something that the audience can help you do? Do we need to subscribe to your YouTube? Do we need to, follow a blog? What can we do to support you? Do we need to write a letter to, somebody and say,
all right. So I'm actually starting. Well, I already have a YouTube channel. It's been dormant for some time. Thank you, Kellen, for giving me the inspiration and the motivation. I need to go back and start, and continue from where I left off. So all other things being equal, this year, I'm going to go full force into my YouTube channel. It's Fritz FDA, Fritz FDA. That's my YouTube channel. And so you rush there and hit, the subscribe button, and I'll be coming your way with compelling, content. So you need to watch that space. And I'm also a consultant, communication consultant. So if you're in the diaspora or in any other parts of the world, and you are interested or you are nursing any intentions of coming to Ghana, and any knowledge or any consultancy on how to navigate the complexities of our beloved country, I would always be here for you. I'm going to be your first port of call, holding your hand and walking you through all the things you need to do. You can always feel free to always reach out to me on my various social media platforms. On Facebook is Fritz Delano Amegashie. On Instagram is Fritz_Delano. And of course on X is at Fritz_Delano. And I'm always willing. My DMs are always open, honest and open book. Just get in touch and let's have a conversation. There's something you want to banter about, always get in touch. Feel free, and let's keep the conversation going. And I'll be very happy to always get in touch with each one of you.
And with that, you guys, because he has a YouTube channel, I want you to go follow. Majority of you are listening on Apple, you iTunes people. We appreciate you. Make sure you leave a review. Also, Podbean, we thank you. And go over with the YouTube and you can, like and subscribe. But before I let you go, Fritz, I want to tell you, the future for you is so bright. And with your YouTube, in Jesus Christ's name, I want you to really think outside the box, and everything that you would bring to a DW talk, for the 77%. Edith Kamani, I love her. She's welcome on the show anytime, but I could see you on that type of show as well. Whatever you, yeah, whatever you would bring, I want you to bring it on your channel. And if you feel free on the African Diaspora, if you would share the greatness, because don't hold back. You are totally just allowed to expand. So many of us in corporate, you get caught up in the box. So feel free to be outside the box. I'm going to be outside the box and tell you guys, if you do nothing else besides liking and subscribing to this game, make sure you share this game with somebody. It will change their life. Happy New Year, y'all. This is the first interview in the new year that we are doing. So thank God. Peace, y'all. Be blessed.
Hello, one and all. My name is Fritz Amegashie. I'm a journalist and a communication consultant in Ghana. If you're in the diaspora or in any other parts of the world and you have intention, you have idea of coming to Ghana, or you even want to talk Ghana and you don't have any knowledge, any consultancy, or any guidance on what to expect, on how to navigate the complexities of our beloved country, consider me your first port of call. I'll be here to give you all the guidance, all the help, all the assistance you need to make your journey in Ghana very fruitful. Or you have any business here in the country and you don't have the time to do all the legwork and do all the things that needed to be done to make your business flourish in the country. You need some assistance of the sort, and you need somebody who can be, a third person or a second person who can do all the activity, who can do all the ranks for you. Please consider me. I'll be here to give you all the help you need and make your journey, your business here very fruitful. Do not hesitate to reach out to me on my various social media platforms. It's Fritz Amegashie. That's on Facebook. On X is @Fritz_Delano, and Instagram as well, Fritz_Delano. You can also reach out to me on my personal number, +233 557 884294. That is +233 557 884294. Please, I'll be waiting for your calls. I'll be waiting for your text messages, and I'm hoping to work with all of you. Do have a lovely year, and of course, everything is going to fall in place. Cheers.
Hi everyone. Have you ever been curious about visiting Africa? Which African country were you interested in? Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, South Africa, Ethiopia? Which country are you interested in? My good friend, Kellen Cash Coleman, came up with a course called My First Trip to Africa that'll guide you through this process. It's only $20, and in this course you'll learn about passports, visas, vaccinations that you need before you go there, as well as a budget, how much the trip is going to cost. He also talks about what you should pack, what you should take with you, how you should travel on a budget. Did you know that $100 is worth 1,000 South African rand and over 10,000 Kenyan shillings? So imagine what you can do with $100 back home. I say back home because I'm from Sudan, I'm African, I already know how it's like. I know that, when you convert Canadian and American money, it goes a long way when you're traveling across Africa. So if you're curious, if Africa is a place that you've always wanted to go, always wanted to move there, Kellen Cash is the person to ask. Check out the course. There's a little preview you can listen to before you actually purchase it. If you're interested in this course, visit www.diversifiedgame.com. Don't miss out.
Welcome to South Africa, and you will be coming with the African Diaspora News Channel with Phil Scott, of course. He is hosting you guys in this amazing country. He's been here before, he's been back again, and now he's bringing you on this trip. So make sure you sign up early so you can go ahead and come on this trip as well. It's going to be an amazing trip because we're actually coming to Johannesburg. We're going to show you all the sites like Mandela Square. And then, of course, from there, we're on our way to Durban. Durban is a special place. It's our playground. This is where the people of South Africa go to have a good time. It's tropical. We have beaches. We have everything. We have culture. We have nightlife. Everything is here, and you're going to absolutely enjoy yourself. So sign up with the African Diaspora News Channel now with Phil Scott, and we will see you guys here in what we like to call sunny South Africa. See you soon.